Welcome to the Sports 2.0 show. I'm Cierra Clark alongside Jaya, Akshay, and Grant. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sports 2.0 Network, on YouTube so you can watch lots of different takes on lots of other different sports. Today we're going to be talking about the NBA and the final series on Tuesday where the Bucks can possibly seal the deal. On Saturday, the Bucks defeated the Suns 123-119. And they have the chance to win their first NBA title since 1971 on Tuesday in Milwaukee. What can the Bucks do to seal the deal for the NBA title? Jaya, we'll start with you.
Well, I think what really saved them in Game 5 was Jrue Holiday's defense. He really put on an amazing game on Saturday night, and he tallied 27 points, 4 rebounds, 13 assists. So he really had quite an evening. I also think that all three of them were playing really well together, Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday. So if they keep that up, especially being back at home in Milwaukee with the home court advantage they have, I think they should be in pretty good shape. I mean, throughout these finals, Giannis has been averaging 32 points, 13 rebounds, 5.6 assists. So things are starting to get a little scary for the Suns, especially with them having that home court advantage, like I said earlier.
Jaya, for you, who do you think on the Bucks has been the star of this series so far?
I would say when I'm thinking about the star, the person who's in the headlines, who's getting the most media attention, the face of the franchise, I'm going to have to say Giannis is definitely the star. But I do think that Middleton and Jrue Holiday have played better games in certain games than Giannis has, if that makes sense. So while Giannis has amazing plays, ones that are legendary, and he has those moments that, are just very unforgettable finals moments, when you look at the overall game, like, for example, I think Middleton had a really great Game 4. He played the best, although that clutch moment in the end of the fourth quarter, is what made Giannis the star.
Absolutely, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do in this next game. Akshay, what do you think that the Bucks need to do in order to seal the deal for the championships?
Yeah, well, as Jaya said, Jrue Holiday, Khris Middleton, and Giannis, those big three guys, they need to play at their best game. They need to be able to shut down all offensive threats on the Suns. They need to be able to put offensive points on the board as well. But most importantly, I think, is the X factors for the Bucks. I think Pat Connaughton, if he can play great, if Brook Lopez can dominate in the paint and kind of neutralize DeAndre Ayton as much as he can, I think those two guys will definitely help the Bucks go a long way. But to win the finals, Giannis and Khris Middleton need to have their best games offensively, and Jrue Holiday needs to continue what he's been doing in the series, and that's locking up Chris Paul and Devin Booker when he has a chance.
Devin Booker also dropped 40 points in the previous game. What specifically do the Bucks need to do to stop him, you say, Akshay?
In my opinion, I would take PJ Tucker off of him. A lot of times PJ Tucker was on Devin Booker in Game 5, and he got a lot of points off of that. PJ Tucker is a great defender, but I think he's a little bit too slow and a little bit undersized to guard Devin Booker, although they're almost basically the same height. In my opinion, I think they would be better off either having Khris Middleton or Jrue Holiday on Devin Booker a majority of the time. As of right now, these past couple of games, I would rather have Chris Paul kind of, orchestrating the offense and having the ball in his hands rather than Devin Booker, just to, kind of take points off the board. I saw Devin Booker get to the, into the paint a lot. So either playing the zone on Devin Booker or switching the defenders will definitely help the Bucks.
All right, and Grant, we'll go back to you. What do the Bucks need to do to seal the deal?
What the Bucks need to do to win the NBA Finals, you mentioned it, their first one since 1971, is exactly the same thing that they did in Game 5. If you look at the past couple of games, you talked about it. Devin Booker has scored 42 and 40 points in the last games. It's the first time in NBA playoff history NBA Finals history, a player has dropped 40+ in back-to-back losses. The Bucks are doing everything they can to win right now. The key is just, are Jrue Holiday and are Khris Middleton going to knock down their shots? Schematically, nothing has really changed. They're not necessarily playing smarter basketball. Giannis, if anything, is the one that's been playing smarter. But Middleton and Holiday haven't really changed anything. They've just found their confidence. They've gotten some momentum going, and that's all they need. And I think that Mike Budenholzer did a great job. He gave Holiday his confidence by starting him aggressive on the defensive side. He was going down 94 feet, picking up Chris Paul all the way in the backcourt to start the game. And it frustrated Chris Paul. Monty Williams, you saw him make the adjustment. He told DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, just come set screens in the backcourt just so that Chris Paul could bring the ball into the attacking half. So Holiday got in there early, got energized, and that's all it took. So the Bucks, they don't need to change anything. They should expect adjustments from Phoenix, but if their big three play not even at their best, just slightly under their best, that's still better than what Booker, Paul, and Ayton can do. The Suns are much more reliant on their role players like Crowder and Bridges to step up and help them win the game. So Milwaukee just needs to do the same thing and knock down their shots. And if they do, they'll win.
You mentioned Devin Booker dropped 40 points in 2 back-to-back games, yet the Suns still ended up losing. Is there more that Booker can do?
It's hard because he has been the Suns' best player, no question about it. Especially with all the hype that Chris Paul was receiving. People were talking, well, he made second-team All-NBA. People were saying maybe he was an MVP candidate. Then people said he was a shoo-in for Finals MVP after the first game. But then he disappeared horrendously in Game 4. Played pretty well in Game 5. He had one of the dumbest plays ever by fouling Giannis on that alley-oop at the end of the game. But outside of that, he was terrific. Scored 10 points in the fourth quarter, knocked down 2 threes in Jrue Holiday's face. That brought Phoenix back in the game. So, but Booker, the great players, they have the great expectations. He's averaging 30 points a game, which is terrific. It's his first time in the finals. It's his first time in the playoffs. It's hard to ask for much more than that. But he's under 4 points under 4 rebounds and under 4 assists per game. You got to look for him to be more of a dynamic threat, like we know he can. He had a 40-point triple-double just a series ago. So, with him scoring and taking the burden offensively, yeah, it's great for the team, but he's got to find ways to influence the game in other aspects because we've seen he dropped 40 in back-to-back games and they lost both games. They've got to figure out some other way to get him more active on the boards, play tighter defense, help the other guys get going. They've got to change something because with him just as a scorer, it isn't working.
And you kind of answered a bit of this question already, but what are the keys for the Suns to take in order for them to hold off the Bucks so the Bucks can't win the title?
What do the Suns need to do? Well, first things first, they have to do what only the Atlanta Hawks did and only did one time, which is win a game in Pfizer Forum. Milwaukee has only lost 1 game the entire playoffs at home, which is pretty incredible feat. Now, Phoenix was really good on the road. Obviously, they were better at home as pretty much every team in the NBA is, but they were solid on the road. And we just saw Milwaukee just won on the road in a really hard environment to play in. So it's definitely possible that they could go out and do the same thing. But one thing they have to do is just these situational moments. Chris Paul has to be better. And, he's been phenomenal in the playoffs, coming off of a great regular season. The last couple seasons, I think Chris Paul has been appreciated more than he has in his entire career, maybe even combined. But Chris Paul is on the verge of becoming the first player in NBA history to blow 4 playoff series when he had a 2-0 lead. That just says enough about his career. And you look at his last appearances in the playoffs, right? If we say that the Suns, let's say the Bucks win Game 6, they win the finals. We look at the last couple games. Chris Paul essentially ends his team's chances by fouling Giannis when the Bucks were up 3. Obviously, he missed the free throw, but they grabbed the rebound. Middleton knocks down a free throw. The game's over. You look at the game before that. The Suns are coming down with a chance to tie the game. Chris Paul just dribbles it away and gets ripped by Holiday. They throw a run out to Middleton. The Bucks win that game. You look at last year with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had a 0.1% chance of making the playoffs. They get in as the 5th seed. They have the clear favorite Houston Rockets in Game 7. Chris Paul has the ball with under a minute left, and he throws the game away with an unacceptable turnover. And you look at the playoff series before that, he gets injured, or the year before that, he gets injured. You look at the year before that, he gets injured. And it's hard to blame a player for injuries, but if you just look at his career, which is 16 years, this is a large sample size. He has always disappeared when the team needs him the most, regardless of how well he played going into it. So sure, he's averaging 24 and 9, which is great in the box score, but he has to prove, if he is the point god, that he really can deliver the team the championship.
So would you say that Chris Paul more chokes when it's a crucial games, or do you think that teams are just defending him really well?
I don't necessarily want to call him a choker because he has played so well. But, you know, if this is LeBron dribbling the ball away with 30 seconds and a chance to tie the game in his 16th year, if this is Durant, if this is Steph Curry, if this is Damian Lillard, you're looking at him and saying that's unacceptable. He choked the game. Who cares if he had 40 points when he threw the game away with a chance to win with 30 seconds left? And it's just unacceptable. And, you know, I harped on it before, but that foul on Giannis, that is a dirty play. And Chris Paul is the president of the Players Association, so he gets all this love. People in the media think he's this cute little figure because he's 6 feet tall, maybe even less. You know, he's in his first finals. How adorable. Whatever. He is a dirty player. Giannis is going up for this alley-oop. He is in the air at the top of his jump. Chris Paul puts his arm out at full extension, which by the book is a flagrant foul. He could have been ejected for this. He got off the hook because Giannis didn't, and it didn't really affect Giannis, and Giannis made the dunk. So, you know, it's one of those hear no evil, see no evil situations. But if Chris Paul succeeds in throwing him off his flight path, which is what he intended when he's pushed him, you know, first Giannis might careen into the fans on the sideline. He might land at a weird angle. He's just coming off of a knee injury. Very possible he hurts his knee and he's out for the series. And, you know, it goes back to what I'm saying before. Chris Paul does these dirty plays when he feels that the game is over or it's a bad situation. And he has a history of doing stuff like this. So, you know, I don't want to say Chris Paul is a choker because he doesn't drastically underperform. It's just these key moments where he's had that chance to move into a top 2, top 3 point guard of all time, and he's failed every time.
All right. We'll go over to Akshay. What do the Suns need to do in order to stop the Bucks from winning the NBA title?
I mean, we saw it in Game 5 last night where the Suns jumped off to a 16-point lead in the first quarter, and then the second quarter came around, and they just stopped playing basketball. They let the Bucks come back, even take the lead before halftime. We saw that in Game 3, Game 4, and Game 5. Not coincidence? I don't think so. They lost all 3 of those games. So what they need to do is they need to have a better second quarter. They can't take their foot off the gas at all because the Bucks have come from behind before. They know what they need to do. They play with a passion that, you know, they think they're underdogs in every game, and they'll jump on you if you give them the slightest chance of coming back. We saw that with Giannis as well. He's just unstoppable, and when he gets, you know, going in that game, it's really hard to stop him. But, you know, speaking as a team, the Suns really need to, they need to stop with the personal. They need to cut their fouls down. Devin Booker has been in foul trouble the past 3 games. Technically had 8 fouls in Game 4, but the rest didn't call those last 3. Chris Paul had 5 fouls last night, or last game on Saturday. Devin Booker had 5 fouls again. You know, they've averaged 21 personal fouls over the past 3 games compared to the Bucks, you know, 16, 17. That's not going to get it done. I know you can foul Giannis, but, you know, when he's at home, he actually makes his free throws. And if you want to win at Pfizer Forum, you can't put Giannis on the line because he'll make the free throws regardless because nobody's counting, and he's not going to, you know, they're not going to get into his head. and he's going to make these free throws. And he's already a decent free throw shooter on the road as well. You know, he only misses maybe like 6 to 7 free throw attempts a game, and he gets maybe like 16 or 17 per game as well. So, you know, they need to stay out of foul trouble. That hurts them a lot. They also need to cut their turnovers down. I see a lot of times Chris Paul is bringing the ball up the court, makes an errant pass. Cameron Payne sometimes is playing point guard when Chris Paul isn't in, makes a bad decision as well. I see Devin Booker, you know, sometimes trying to get, you know, he runs into a double team, tries to pass it out, and, you know, they'll end up losing the ball. But, I mean, that's all credit to the Milwaukee Bucks playing an incredible team defense on the Suns. But if the Suns want to win, they need to cut down their turnovers and they need to cut down their personal fouls.
All right, two pretty sounds simple, but we'll see if they can do it tomorrow night. Jaya, for you, what do the Suns need to do in order to hold off the Bucks in order to keep their season alive?
Well, I think Grant and Akshay hit a lot of the main points that I was going to bring up. Definitely cutting down those fouls and turnovers. Like Akshay just said, honestly, if they want to win this one, every single player needs to be on their best game. They need to make a lot of offensive adjustments. One thing that I didn't hear brought up yet, I think the same standard needs to be applied for DeAndre Ayton. You know, Ayton is arguably the only Suns player who can effectively guard Giannis. And I think in this series, he's done a decent job of that. I think they should keep him on Giannis throughout more of the game to try and hold him back as much as possible. And again, I think it really is just those little things. They can't rely on Booker to make all of the shots. I mean, Booker needs to be making all of his shots, but other players need to come in and start dropping points. Chris Paul needs to be better. I don't think he's a choker like Grant was saying earlier. I wouldn't say he's a choker, but I do think in those specific moments where there's pressure, he doesn't always deliver, and he cannot do that in this next game if he wants to help bring the Suns to Game 7.
Very good points on Chris Paul on that. He's not necessarily a choker, but in those crucial moments, he doesn't perform as expected. All right, great points, guys. We're going to move over to the betting lines over here, provided by FanDuel. The Phoenix Suns are at +5, and the Milwaukee Bucks are at -5 for the spread. For the money line, it's +172 for the Suns and -205 for the Bucks, and then the over/under is 221.5. I'll go first, and I'm gonna pick the Phoenix Suns to cover. The Bucks have been in a good position these last two games. It's been really close, so I'm not going to take them necessarily on the money line just yet. And I think that the Suns learned from Game 6 I'm hoping they learned from Game 6 on that comeback that the Bucks did towards the end of the game. And I think they want to keep their season alive. So I'm not seeing them. I don't see it being. I'm not going to take the money line just yet. I think the Suns have a real good chance of keeping it close, but I could also see where the Bucks will win. So I'm going to pick the Phoenix Suns to cover at +5. Grant, what are your takes?
Well, really, I've hated betting on the Bucks throughout the entire playoffs because they win the games that it looks like, you think they have no chance, and then they just, you have no clue what they're going to do. They've proven it throughout the playoffs. It was the Game 5 against the Brooklyn Nets where Kevin Durant had 49, 17, and 10. That's what sent me over the edge. It was like, how on earth did you just lose that game? And then they win the next two games when it looks like they're toast. So, but I will have to say I will take the Bucks straight up. I'll take them to cover whatever you got. I think they win this game by somewhere around 8 to 10 points. Like I mentioned, they've only lost one game at home all playoffs, and role players play better at home. Akshay mentioned it. Pat Connaughton, you could say, completely changed the game. Comes in when they're down 16, makes 3 threes. And they end up going up by 3 at halftime. They've got all the momentum. They're going to the place they're comfortable at. Devin Booker scored 40 in back-to-back games, and they lost both of those. Unless Monty Williams figures out some new scheme to stop their big three, even though I don't think they have the personnel to do it. Phoenix is toast, in my opinion. I think they had to win that game, lose in Milwaukee, and go home to winning Game 7. I don't see them winning in Milwaukee, so I'll take the Bucks to win the NBA Finals 4-2.
All right, Akshay, what are your takes?
Yeah, as Grant said, betting on the Bucks is a terrible, terrible time in the playoffs. Mike Budenholzer, if he wins his championship, does not deserve a ring because he cannot coach for his life. And the Bucks being at home, they're almost unstoppable in these playoffs. So I want to bet the Bucks, but I also don't really want to at the same time. So I'm going to go with the over/under here. I'm going to go under. The games 3 and 4 in Milwaukee were both under this threshold, and I think it's going to be the same time. I think it's going to be the same thing there. I don't think the Suns really kind of struggled on the road in these finals, shooting wise in the first half. I think that's kind of what we're going to see in Game 6 as well. I think they're going to be trying to force a lot of shots because they're going to be playing, down. This is the first time in the playoffs they're at the brink of elimination. So I think these young guys are going to, force up some shots that aren't really great shots, and I don't think they're going to go in. I think the Bucks will start off slow again, as we've seen in the past couple of games, but they'll pick it up eventually in the second quarter going into the second half. So I'll go under here. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I don't think they'll really get to 221.
And Akshay, normally with road teams, they say the key is to get off to a hot start and hold the lead, and that's what the Suns have been great at, holding the lead. In game 5, they choked a double-digit lead for the first time in the whole playoffs.
Yeah.
So now they don't even have that going for them. So they're like, it's going to take a near miracle, in my opinion, for them to win that game.
Yeah.
So Akshay, you say you're taking the under?
Yep.
All right. So Akshay taking the under over here. Jaya, what are you taking for this game?
Yeah, this series has been quite unpredictable, but I'm with Grant on this one. Game 5 was a must-win for the Suns, and they failed to do what they needed to do. So it is really not looking good for them. I think the wisest bet would be to take the Bucks to cover. I just don't foresee them losing at home in Milwaukee. I think they're going to come out. I think Batman and Robin are going to come through and do what they need to do for their city. So I'm going to go ahead and take them to cover. I'm with Akshay as well. I'm going to take the under. I'm not so confident that they're going to be able to reach 221.5, but we'll see. I mean, my prediction so far, I've been shocked with every single game so far. So we will see what happens next. There's really no telling at this point.
Absolutely. This series has just been not the best one to bet with, in my opinion. It's just been kind of all over the place. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching to the Sports 2.0 show. Make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channels. With Jaya, Grant, and Akshay, we will see you next time.